The first story of the day is about Thousand Oaks, which is on the outskirts of Los Angeles. There was a mass shooting or someone who shot a bunch of people, whatever you want to call it, in Thousand Oaks at Borderline Bar and Grill. And at first, I was hoping there was going to be no casualties because at first they were not reporting on it. And then the reports came in that 12 people died. Not good, never good. A lot of them were college students. It was a college night, apparently. It was also a country music night, and we're going to talk about that because there's some really weird stuff going around country music between this and Vegas. We're going to get into that in a second. So I don't want to glorify, I think the news, sometimes they talk too much about the perpetrator, so I'm not going to say his name. 28-year-old male, veteran, traveled to the site often, so hopefully they figure out the motive behind that, because if they traveled to the site often, many things could be true. Maybe he went postal, got treated bad, had mental illness, obviously, spiritually ill, obviously, but the rest is unknown. I hope they figure that out, unlike they did in Vegas, where they kind of just left us hanging. So apparently, according to the reports, and I have to say that because things change, especially with early reporting like this, but the gun was apparently legal, but the extended clip was illegal. So the whole getup that he had was part legal, part illegal, making the whole thing illegal. As people know, California has some of the strictest gun control laws, but in America, it's not that hard to get a gun, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending what side of the debate you're on. There's a lot of illegal guns, and I've even talked to police officers who said most situations as far as crime are done with illegal guns. But first off, I'm going to talk about how we could stop mass shootings like this on my perspective without politicizing it. But one takeaway from this, besides the fact that it's horrible, it's terrible, anybody could say that, thoughts and prayers, of course, I mean that, but, I want to do something a little unique, even if it is about a tragedy. One guy there, I saw his interview and I wrote down some of the quotes. He said he was also in Las Vegas where I don't know how many people were shot. It was like 40, 50, 60, hundreds of people shot, like 50 people dead in Vegas. He said he was in Vegas, but he also said 30 to 45 of us who were in Vegas from Ventura County always go to this bar. So is he hinting that 30 to 45 people that were there or that are frequently at this bar were also in Las Vegas? That's pretty crazy. I want to say, without sounding like a theorist or anything, the first thing I'll say is, yeah, it's not that crazy that people who would go to a country concert in Las Vegas, a big country concert, would go to a country bar in Thousand Oaks. There's nothing crazy about that. But what is kind of weird is how these are two mass shootings that are around country events. I do think that's pretty strange. And I also think it's strange the biggest mass shooting in modern history at Las Vegas was, attacking people that liked country music. I'm not saying politics is obviously not involved at a concert, but you could bet your bottom dollar that a lot of them are most likely right-leaning. If you like country music, you're probably more conservative than Republican on a general polling scale. I think that's pretty easy to say. I checked out one of the victims who passed away yesterday, got killed, murdered. He, had an American flag on his shirt. He was definitely a patriot. I don't know about the other 11, but I know one for sure. I just think it's strange anytime that 50, 60 people get murdered like in Las Vegas, and then they say, oh, there was no motive, he just went postal. It sounds very, very unlikely to me. I don't see, of course mental illness is there, spiritual illness is there, but you don't just murder 50, 60 people for no reason. I highly, highly doubt what they said in Vegas. And when it comes to this Thousand Oaks thing, it's just very strange that, lots of people from the Vegas thing were at this place. Once again, country fans being targeted. So I hope that the police can really figure out a motive so we can stop this. And that's just my outside the box reporting. I want to say on the mass shootings, of course, they're going to say, gun control on the left. They're already saying Trump is Hitler. They're blaming the NRA. They're calling everyone terrorists. Of course, of course. You have right-wing people politicizing this event, saying, no, we're keeping the Second Amendment, don't touch it, this and that, blah, 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 this, blah, blah. I'm going to try to stay outside both those echo chambers and say, regardless of how you feel about both of those, I get the argument from both. We have two major problems in the United States, and these mass shootings are never going to stop until we address these two root problems, which go deeper than Democrat or Republican. And those two problems are, I mentioned it earlier, Mental health. We have a huge mental health problem in the United States. We have hundreds of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of millions of people taking pharmacy pills, depression pills, all sorts of pills. They'll sell them to you on Fox News. They'll sell them to you on MSNBC. They'll sell them to you online. They'll sell them to you at the store. Your doctor will tell you to take them. Some the TV tells you to take, and your doctor never told you to take them. All I'm telling you is we have a huge mental health problem in the United States, and I don't see it getting better. I see it getting worse for a multitude of reasons, to be fair. I think one of the reasons is outside of politics. It's technology. I think these phones, these cell phones, although they're amazing, yes, they could bring us food, we can travel, do all sorts of cool stuff. I'm interacting with you right now because of a cell phone. I think the cell phones are causing mental illness and spiritual illness, and the fact that we're depressed, we have all this stuff, but we're not happy because we're connected to hundreds of thousands of people at once, and it's too much. It's hard enough to be in a room with 50 people, let alone be on Twitter and you have the whole world yelling at you from all sides. It's not a mentally healthy sort of thing. I don't think Facebook, Twitter, Google, all of these things, no disrespect to the platforms, it's not their fault, but the internet, I feel like, is causing huge mental illness. I feel like society is causing huge mental illness. People can't have a conversation. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, but the fact that people are treating each other this way off of very minor details of how they think that they're going to accomplish the ills of the world is not good for the mental health of the country. This country is mentally sicker than I've ever seen it probably in my lifetime, and it's being perpetually blasted into a mentally more unhealthy situation every single day on Twitter, on Snapchat, on Facebook, on Google. The mainstream agenda, which is, I'm not saying conservatives are perfect. There's some weirdos and wackos on there, but the mainstream agenda that's being pushed to the kids at school and on social media, it is a left agenda of if you're a girl, hate guys, everything's racist, age, gender, we'll change scientific definitions because, people want to feel good. And it's like a lot of stuff that I understand being kind and compassionate for sure. Like I'm pro-LGBT, I don't care if you switch genders, none of that really bothers me. But if you're going to ask me as an honest person, do you think what they're all doing with the liberal agenda, do you think they're doing good or bad for the world? I think they're doing huge amounts of horrific terribleness to teenagers, to academia, to the liberals, to progressives, to people who listen to them, to people who don't like them. I think their overarching agenda is making people tragically mentally ill, and I think the real tragedy there is that one of their biggest sponsors is a pharmacy industry, so they're basically making people mentally ill and then profiting off that mental illness. I think our country is extremely spiritually ill. I think one of the things that brings a country together, regardless of corruption and all this bad stuff, is usually you have a commonality. You love the country, you love the flag, you love this song, you love this music, you love something, whether it's God or it's not, I don't know. Pick something, but we don't have anything that really unites us. Politics divides us, religion divides us, talking about religion divides us. Now the word God divides us. The American flag divides us because half the country wants to kneel, half the country wants us dead. We have no overarching theme that we could all kind of come together on and feel somewhat spiritually healthy, whether it be Christianity. If it wasn't, then it's, spirituality, or it's God, or we love the environment, we love the universe, we love the country. I don't really know, but we don't have that anymore, and everyone is really divided so much more. So, I don't think any political side is to blame, but I think we have a mental health problem and a spiritual health problem that we're not addressing. This guy was a veteran. Obviously, the cost of war. You want to talk about the cost of war, and this is bipartisan. Every time we send millions of people to war, I understand people have to fight for our country, and God bless those people. They're heroes and legends if they're good people. But sending people to war, we waste billions of dollars. We spend trillions of dollars in certain cases. People come back, in many cases, have PTSD and have mental health issues, as do many people in just normal situations as well. It's no disrespect, but they're not treated very kindly when they come back. They're not treated well by the media a lot of times. They're not treated well by the politicians on both sides. They're not treated well by society. A lot of times it's not the case. There's a lot of homeless veterans, and the suicide rate among veterans is way too high for people who put their lives on the line for our country. So the cost of war is very, very huge, and I'm sure that might have played a cost here. I don't know for sure. But overall, I see a lot of issues without making this, political whatsoever. there's a lot of issues of mental and spiritual health, and I don't see the big players pushing us in the right direction. And when it comes to a society, we can be socially engineered by the schools, by what they tell us on the television, by the celebrities. They all control a puzzle piece, as do I now. So I have to be very cautious and careful of the message that I portray, because now I'm a very small piece of this puzzle. But there's bigger pieces, big media corporations and the celebrity elite class and the school system. They all play a part in socially engineering society. And I roughly, without being a pollster, I would say anywhere from 50 to 90+% of these big social engineering, controllers are not socially engineering us in a way to stop mental health. They're not socially engineering us in a way to stop problems with our spiritual health. I find that 90% of the big blocks that socially engineer society and this goes on the Republican and Democrat side, are socially engineering us to be super mentally unstable, super mentally unhealthy, and then bombard us with these medicines that actually alter your brain. They're called mind-altering pills or psychotropics, which they, say they're going to help you, but they alter your brain, which is very, very dangerous. If you have a problem, you're now taking a drug, which in some cases numbs the pain and numbs how you feel, so then you're able to do things that you wouldn't normally do. And most of these mass shooters, I don't know about this one, but a very high percentage of them are on psychotropic pills. It's just, statistics. You could look it up. But overall, 12 people dead. Nothing I say matters. Nothing other people say matters. But moving forward, outside of politics, I would love if people didn't scream Hitler or scream this and scream that from the right to the left, to the left to the right. And I wish that people would take a real honest approach at mental health and spiritual health, because under all these policies and preferences and political parties, you have spiritual health and mental health, and it's suffering dramatically on both sides. And in order to fix it, we need to get to the root of the problem, and that's something that almost nobody wants to do. So until we do that, whether you be Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, don't care about politics, you're not going to see gains in this situation. You're not going to see these tragedies stop. It's just not going to happen. And I say it every time, and with no pride or no happiness, to say that it's not going to stop until you get to the root of the problem. And that's something that big media doesn't want to do. That's something that social media doesn't want to do. That's something that Democrats don't want to do. That's something that Republicans don't want to do. That's something that red and blue don't want to do. And until we get to those root of why our spiritual and mental health is suffering, we're going to have a nonstop circus where we run in circles, hate each other, get more divided, have success, have a good time, have a bad time. It's just life. It is what it is, the yin and the yang. But I don't like the trajectory that we're going in mentally or spiritually, and I'll continue to speak out against the biggest perpetrators of that. God bless you guys, and I'm sorry to anybody that knew anybody involved in that or that has to live in that area, because it's a very safe area, and it just goes to show you that mental health is a problem everywhere. Black, white, Christian, Muslim, atheist, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. We have a mental and spiritual health problem, and it's being propagated in the wrong direction by a lot of people. On that note, I want to talk